Good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Live! Well, again, my name is Jay. I'm the host of the show, and I am just so excited to introduce my co-host this evening, a mix of what I call the old crew and the new crew. It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with the time on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Tonight's a reunion special. Why? Because tonight is episode 200, and it is such a milestone to achieve, to experience, and one that I just felt I had no doubt that I wanted to have in the studio tonight. Josh Richard coming in from SoCal, California. And by the way, viewers, many of you are not aware of this, but that opening promo, that opening video is all Josh Richard. It's something that he created at the beginning of Real Men, Real Talk Live. And, you know, when that song is on, many of us are dancing in the background in the studio. And so, Josh, welcome back. Welcome back to the studio. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, you guys, and breaking digital bread as always. Can't wait to see what happens.
And we have, of course, Mr. Jeff Pisano, originally from the island of Staten, not as in pharmaceutical statins, but in Staten Island, New York. But today he calls Nashville, Tennessee home. Jeff Pisano, welcome back to the studio. Welcome back to Real Men.
It's like riding a bike. This show is ingrained in my DNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you disclosing to us that you actually got a tattoo now of Real Men, Real Talk Live somewhere on your skin?
Yeah, on my butt.
I hadn't heard of that. But, all right. Well, hey, whatever makes you happy, dude. Of course, we have Kamalu, who's with us in season 4. He calls Hawaii home today. Welcome back to the show, Kamalu.
Yes, yes.
Great to be here.
And of course, the only man that I know that goes by the name of Charles Maddox.
Yes,
Charles
yes.
Maddox, welcome back from season 1 on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm excited.
And of course, we have Chris Morrison, his first season with us right now. We're in season 4, coming in from the Phoenix Valley of Arizona. Welcome back to the studio, Chris Morrison.
Thank you, brother. I'm so excited to see you here after watching, a bunch of you guys be on the show for, I don't know, for quite a while. It's so cool to now be sharing space with you guys. So I appreciate it. I really do.
Big time.
Is it not an honor to kind of be in the presence of the original Fab? I call it There's one gentleman that unfortunately had a conflict with work. He did everything to get out of it, to be here. Evis Heath, the man of the land from down under, Australia, unfortunately couldn't make it. I put as much pressure, loving pressure, as I could put on all week long, Lionel Richie, all night long.
Hey, you know what I think? I think we should do? We should all do our best impression of Ev.
Well, we can get there at some point tonight. But before we get there, I want to, again, welcome our viewers back to the show tonight. And viewers, if you should have any comments, questions that you want to share, please drop them into the comments section. Also, if you're inspired and you want to share tonight's show with your friends and family members on social media, please drop it on your homepage. Also, email, share it out because you just never know whose life you're going to touch. I shared this in a back studio right before we went live. There are so many times when I'll run into somebody randomly, no matter where I'm at, and they'll say to me, "I love your show," and I go, "What?" And they go, "Yeah, Kamala was in Sedona last month or two ago, and we went to the farmer's market, and I stopped at one of the booths there, and the owner of this particular business that he runs at the farmer's market just said to me, 'Wow, I haven't seen you in so long, but I love your show. I've been watching forever.'"
Mm.
And I had no idea. So the reason I'm sharing that with you guys and viewers is because in life, we never know whose life we're going to touch by what we say or what we do or what we don't say or what we don't do. So I want to invite you to, this is really one of the biggest lessons from Real Men, Real Talk Live that I've
Mm.
learned is be aware of how you're showing up in life because you never know who's paying attention. And we have an opportunity to either be a teacher of being a jerk, or we could be a mentor coming from wisdom and love. And I choose to be a mentor today, coming
Mm.
from love, sharing my wisdom, sharing my life lessons to whomever wants to listen. But having said all that, welcome back, gentlemen. And what I'd like to invite us to do right now is really kick the show off tonight by asking each one of you, maybe 3 minutes or less. We don't have to go into a whole dissertation, but what has your life been like since leaving the talk show? What have you either overcome or what's life been like for you? Let's just start there. What's life?
Mm.
Josh, you're on the top shelf, so let's start with you.
In the hot seat. And in
Top shelf.
fact, Charles, since we're on together, man, I get to thank you actually.
Wow.
Charles is such a beautiful heart. He's
Oh,
such a busy man. He's got his hands in so many things, and he loves giving so much to this
thank,
world and creating for this world. Charles, you are a voracious creator, my friend.
thank you, brother.
And you actually inspired my next venture, what I'm doing now, and I've poured my heart into for almost 2 years now
Wow.
because of our show. Charles was blasting out our show on his streaming network,
Yeah.
but the man down below me has got his hands in so many things and always so busy. He was lagging on uploading episodes. You can leave it in Charles' face up because I want to see your reaction to all this. I'm going to call you out for a second in the most loving way.
Yeah.
And Charles was lagging on uploading Real Men episodes.
Yeah.
And so I just jumped on Google one night and I was like, can you launch your own streaming network nowadays? Can you
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah.
And matter of fact, you can, as you know.
Mhm.
And so this idea was born, and it's something that I actually thought about. It's funny. I had this idea probably 13 years ago,
Wow.
and in fact, I was going to call it Pazza.tv.
Mhm.
But that back then when I looked into it, it was like, I mean, starting your own this was back in broadcast days, was like to
Mhm.
launch your own broadcast network, you needed to be an Oprah or
Mm.
something like that. And so it clearly wasn't possible, but this has been a long time dream of mine. And so thank you, Charles.
Oh,
We are launching our own streaming network called Brio, all about mental, physical, and financial health. So holistic health.
mm.
So thank you for the inspiration, my friend.
Brother, I saw the site and very impressed, very impressed. I'm like, man, this looks good. I can see where this can go. And hopefully we can do some shows on there. You know what? Where I don't know when you're launching,
Hell
but
yeah,
we're actually launching a new longevity. We'll get into that, but we're launching a
I
new
know.
longevity series in a couple of days. So
Yeah. Well,
So Josh,
perfect. I get to thank you in person,
yeah,
and thanks for inspiring that question that just popped in and helping me realize a long time dream. And it's been and just to share a bit of the process. As we all know, things come up in life, and when we push into boundaries that we used to through fear programming, old stuff back away from, or resist that discomfort. We have just had to walk through wall after wall after wall of discomfort. So it was funny. Me and my business partners were talking today that this business is uniquely us in a sense that it's pushing us to grow, and as we grow, the bounds of the business grows. And so there, I don't love the phrase the business is your baby, because I feel like if it crashes then it takes you down emotionally with it. We're not tied in it in that way. It's going to do what it's going to do, but to grow fully, we need to grow fully with it and in it. And it's been a beautiful teacher. It's been a beautiful guide, and has brought up some incredible lessons that I don't think would have come up if we weren't always stepping towards discomfort.
Mhm.
And so hasn't been easy, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm grateful for all of it. So thank you, Charles.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Jeff Fasano,
Yo.
what's new in your life, man? Briefly. Anything new since you left the program?
Yeah, there's been a lot going on. A lot of photo exhibits. I've done a lot of photo exhibits since then. I'm learning to actually hold on one second, guys. Hold on.
Guess we jumped to Charles. Oh no, he's gonna bring his book. Hopefully, he's grabbing his book.
I'll be
Oh yeah,
grabbing his
maybe
book
he's
too,
getting
man.
my book. Yeah, maybe he's getting my book.
If he doesn't grab it, I got my copy back here.
Yeah, let's like yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Jay, check your message for a second. All right.
I got it.
But I do. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
What do you got there, Mr. Fasano?
Yeah, something was going on in the kitchen.
Okay.
What I really wanted to say was Jay's talking about what we've learned in one of the amazing and wonderful things about this show when we were doing it, it probably still is how much I learned from Jay, Josh, and Evis when we were doing the show. It was amazing, and how much that I would learn every time we did the show, learn more about myself, the nuggets, how we used to finish each other's thoughts. It was amazing, and I've been thinking about that ever since Jay asked us to do this, and I had never been a part of anything like that. The four of us, if I didn't say it, Josh said it. If Josh didn't say it, Evis said it. If Evis didn't say it, Jay said it. And it just all came together in this symbiotic thing where at the end, it was just, you felt complete, fulfilled, enlightened, enriched, and learned just so much. I learned so much in the years we did this about myself, about how close we are. Like when Josh came here, and it was just an amazing thing. And I've just been thinking about that, and I'm bummed that Ev's not here, and I miss it. I miss that. It was, that thing about, wow, you finish my thoughts, you finish my sentences. That's what we did on the show. We never over talked. We never talked over each other. It was cohesive and fun and interesting. And it opened my heart so much in so many ways. And it was wonderful. And that's what I've been thinking about the entire time. And it just, it was special, man. It was just, it was special.
And I tell you what, Fasano, it still is. It still is.
Sure.
And for those of you that may not know the history of the backstory, Real Men, Real Talk Live was first launched as a one-on-one interview. It was called Real Men, Real Talk Raw. And that's why Tracy Watson, who's been a viewer, she called it Real and Raw, and it brought me back to initially Real Men, Real Talk Raw was my first podcast that I launched in my life. And I got an intuitive hit one day. And the intuitive hit came in, I don't recall how much time had passed, but something said to me, it's time to revamp it and go from one-on-one interview. And the purpose of Real Men, Real Talk Raw was for men to come in and share inspiring stories of how they have evolved or changed something in their life, an aspect in their life, whether it be health, whether it be physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, relationships, whatever it was. And then I got the hit, said, you know what? It's time to change it into a talk show where we get together and we share our darkest truths and our life lessons as men to inspire other men and women that it's possible for us to be healthy men. And interestingly enough, our viewership is somewhere around 74% female. Why? Because they want to understand the men.
No. Why? Because we were all really good looking. That's why.
So Kamalu, I want to invite you to share right now, before we get to Charles. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like for you. This is your first season of Real Men Real Talk Live. What has it been like for you? What have you gotten out of the show?
Ooh, it's a loaded question, man. I feel like there's so many layers and so many places I could go with that. But I would say the main thing that I've gotten from the show is a sense of comfortability being seen in vulnerability, like in a public way. And to be able to be authentically myself in the spotlight is something that is now transitioning into some of the work I was doing in Sedona, hosting my own kava, being able to do that. Stepping up in my music career too, in terms of like actually being like opening up my voice and singing more and not just being like the background keyboard player in someone's band. So yeah, I would say, and just like the depth of connection too, you know, not only through the show, but also just through you and with Chris and with Avery when he was on the show too. You know, it's a really beautiful thing to work and spread the love and broaden the family. So that's
Well, welcome to tonight's episode, Kamalu. Charles, you're up, man. What is? Tell me, where are you in life today, having spent a season on Real Men Real Talk Live? And we'll start there. Catch us up? What do you got?
Dying to know.
I definitely want to say congratulations to the new generation that you did bring on. You guys are really holding it down, Kamalu and Chris. You know, it's not easy sometimes. You know, Jay is steadfast in this, and you're holding down the dream, and it's very powerful that you guys are able to continue on doing what you're doing. You know, I learned from everyone on this show, Jeff included, brother. I know you didn't include me in the last thing here, but I learned from you as well.
I was getting there.
Oh, okay. Because, you know, I will say that I've always kind of been, and I got this from my parents, always been a kind of private person, you know. My mother was very private. My father was very private. And while I'm a so-called public figure, I'm very private. And you guys really, you know, Jeff was able to at times really just let go. And I would look and I'd be like, man, how does he do it? You know what I'm saying? And same with you, Jay, and of course, you know, the rest of the team, Evis and everybody. And I'd just be blown away as you guys were just sharing your heart. And for me, it was almost kind of like, you know, hiding that side of myself. And I think, you know, there were some crazy things going on at times that you guys, you know, I know I talked to Jay at times and stuff like that. And I think some of that actually played out, you know, kind of real time, where I was able to, you know, kind of really open up a little bit more and really pour into, but I admire you guys. I mean, like I said, between and Jeff, I mean, you guys, I mean, between you guys let tears out, let, you know, secrets out that you know, someone like myself would never, you know, feel comfortable sharing. So this platform, I think, allowed that to be front and center, that men can talk amongst themselves and let things out and vulnerable and be able to have a voice. And you know, not to run on, but you know, I think we also were really cognizant of the females and their roles and their beautiful spaces in our lives, and as you know, part of this beautiful universe. And I think that was the attractive part of the show, that we really touched on both men were dealing with from an emotional standpoint, but also the role that the women played in making us, a part of the men we are now. So it's a very powerful show.
Well, Charles, I want to thank you for sharing that, and I want you to know that it was just an absolute. I mean, it's an honor to have been in a space with all of you. There's no, I can't. It's not. It's kind of like your children. When you birth children, you could say, "Well, I got my favorite," but many parents say they're all their favorite. And if we were to say that I birthed the show, each one of you are my favorite children. I love each one of you for different reasons. But Charles, there's someone here that's. I got to share this little secret since it's Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Okay.
Jordan Walker says Charles is amazing. However, he double dips salsa and guacamole. Charles, I just heard about you.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. Trust me.
Are you? Come on. I doubt that. Well,
No,
either
Jordan is amazing. She's amazing.
So, do you really double dip?
If she says I do, I'm gonna go with that. You know what I mean?
There you go. Wait, I'm trying to understand. Is that the dip, eat, and then dip again, or is that
that's what
salsa into guacamole? Because if it's salsa into guacamole, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
A long time, so I don't remember.
Come on, Charles. Which is it? You got it? We got you on the spot here.
I have double dip, but I mean, I think we all double dip a little bit,
You know what? As long as we don't double dip in our intimate relationship.
There you go.
Yeah, but I bet you we all did that.
No, we sure did.
All right, let's speak
Consensual,
our
man.
truth. Did any of you ever double dip?
Hey, before we go there,
Yeah, I was like, let's get some
one of our
context,
shows,
exactly what that means.
old shows is popping up when we had when we used to always have once a month we had a woman come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm blanking on the one. I could see her face. Oh God, I'm just keep blanking on her name. And
Who was?
and she said something. We were talking about how her husbands were cheating on her and stuff like that. And I said, oh my God, I remember what I said. And, I just blurted something out, and you two guys chimed in, and it was about double dipping.
Well, before we get into the double dip segment of the episode, Chris Morrison, you're up. Tell us what's happened in your life since you joined Real Men, Real Talk Live. Just on a very brief level, what do you got?
I mean, the biggest thing for me is just this has been a bastion for me as I navigate through the waters of life right now. This is a safe place for me to know that I've got a reprieve, a place to come home to and share from my deepest space, because there's a lot going on in the background, and it's pretty heavy. A lot of days are pretty heavy, and to have a spot that that I know I can come to, and I come out the other side re-energized and revitalized, a little lighter. It's been really, really powerful for me to have this space, with you guys. So that's the biggest thing for me.
And what I'm hearing, Chris, is that the program is a place for you to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Where you feel safe, where you can be seen by us. We acknowledge you and we honor you. That's what the show is about, is honoring each other. There's plenty of disrespecting of one another outside of the studio. And this show is, for me, from day one, the foundation of it has been, no matter what, we can agree to disagree, but we always honor each other's perspective, because that's all that it is. It's a perspective based on a life experience.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Jay,
go ahead.
can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Obviously, Kamalu and Chris are amazing. What drew you to them as co-hosts with you?
Well, Chris and I met. Well, Chris, how did we meet? Why don't you share with the audience real briefly? How did we meet initially?
So we met. Me and my ex-wife came to Sedona, and we actually came to your house for one of the dinners that Mary did.
Mm.
Still best like chocolate lava cake I have ever had. Still like, oh, so good. So,
I'm with you. I agree.
it's so good. Like, so, she was on a specific diet, and it was really cool just to jump on and see that somebody was able to cook for her diet. And so that's where Jay and I met. So that was, I think, to 21, I believe.
Wow.
21, late 21 or early 22 maybe.
So that's how we met. And then just the relationship, we kind of grew the relationship. And when it was time for new faces on the show, you were one of the men that I invited in. And for Kamalu, how it happened was we were at a local restaurant in a community one night. We meaning my partner Mary and I, my life partner, my beloved, my angel in my life. And we sat at the bar because we get better service there, not because we were big drinkers, but because we get in and out quicker. And as we sit down, Kamalu is sitting at the bar. And being that I am all about the emotional connections with people, we connected. We started to talk. And just a few minutes in, I looked to Mary and I go, this young guy, he's an old soul. And that was it. I knew that night that he was going to be the next Real Men, Real Talk.
Nice.
And
Love it.
it happened quick.
Yeah.
And so, so that's how that happened. What I'd like to do is,
And real quick, Jay, I want to honor you for a second, my friend. You followed that feeling all those years ago to hold space for men and to bring men together and to create a place of community, that safety that Chris is talking about, that place of discovery from one another that Jeff and Charles are mentioning. And here you are 200 episodes later and affecting all the lives that you have, Jay. And I just wanted to love you up and celebrate you for a second for doing the hard thing and following that feeling and going into a scary unknown place. And here you are all these years later with this beautiful community, and it's given all of us so much. So thank you, Jay.
I received that. I received that here, and here we go.
Wouldn't be real men without it.
Without a tear shed. I don't know how you do
Yep.
it, man. God bless you, brother.
It's been probably my biggest passion project in my life. The only thing, as far as work goes, that I'm just as passionate about is the work that I do with men and women that are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I take them into the wilderness and I bring them home. I guide them back home to their heart, to their soul. But outside of that, this is an unpaid gig so far. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love the program. I love the purpose of what we do. And so thank you for that, Josh. I appreciate that. And I'll tell you this, viewers, is that before every show, I don't know, many of you men are in a public space and the kind of work you do. But I'll tell you that I get jitters before every show. I jump in the shower, I crank up the music on the Bose speaker, and I select music that just kind of ramps me up and gets me going, because that's what the show is about. It's about bringing in the highest level of energy that we can, sharing all of our truths. I want to share a comment that I didn't read it yet. I'm just going to trust that it's safe, from Tracy Watson. Tracy, welcome back to the program. She says, "This space that you real men created on the show helped me heal a lot of the masculine wounds from my life and believe again that there are healthy, loving men out there." Whew. Thank you so much. Is what she shared. What do you make of that, Josh Richard?
Just taking it in. Thank you. And it's not us, Tracy. It's the work you're doing. So Beautiful, beautiful work. I just want to celebrate you, and Tracy's been here with us for a long, long time. So just sending so much love and gratitude for you and your commitment to going to the dark places and moving through it.
It takes courage, right, guys? Men, it takes courage.
100%.
But I'll tell you what, when we step into our courage, we have infinite possibilities in all aspects of our life. We just have to have the courage to step in and then honor and speak our truth, what we need, right? And then we get to say yes, yes, yes every single freaking time, right, Doc? Reverend Dr. Charles Coles, he's a viewer. He's been with us for a really long time. As a viewer, and welcome back to Real Men Real Talk Live. I like to switch gears here right now.
Hold on, Jay. Hold on, Jay. We missed somebody. What's been the biggest thing for you, brother? What's
Ah.
like
Thank you, Chris.
yeah, like hold the phone, sir.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting. I'll tell you what I do miss since Kamalu left Sedona a couple of weeks ago. I miss kava, man. I miss drinking my kava while I'm in the show. That's what when Kamalu came in from the studio with me here while he was living in town. I drank a lot of kava, and I never drank kava. I didn't know what that was until he introduced it to me from his homeland of Hawaii. But what have I got?
I think he was getting a little deeper than that, Jay.
Well, that's what I said. That's what I said. What I missed, Charles.
Did you miss some of us? Did you because obviously it was a transition for you too as well, going from working with all of us. Obviously I kind of stepped out and was doing my thing, and then I think Josh kind of several, maybe a year or so later or whatever it was, and then Jeff and then Evis, and having to replace things and so on and so forth, and obviously that has to I wouldn't say hurt, but we were very close.
It's stressful.
So the question is, do I ever miss you guys? Is that what you're asking me, Charles?
Yeah, but how did you even adjust?
Do you miss us, Jay? Do you miss me, Jay? Come on, Jay. Do you miss me? That's a very wounded question if you have to ask that.
Well, but I'm going to answer it since it was put out there. Again, it's been, each one of you men have touched my heart and touched my life in different ways that I may not have even expressed in the past. Do I miss you? Yeah, of course I miss you guys. Could we, if you said, hey, I'm back, I'd be like, okay, let's do it. It's the Fab Six, whatever it is. I'm just in flow. And for me, my life has changed today. Why? Because I live in trust. I embrace trust in God. And in doing so, I live in faith today. And the faith I live in is that people show up in my life on divine time. Not necessarily my time, but when they're ready, just like Kamalu showed up. I couldn't have orchestrated that evening any differently. But I tell you what, this man here, he's one of my spiritual sons. I love him like a son. So he's my fourth boy.
Yeah.
And I got a fifth one that's been on the show in season 4. Tyler Carson's been with us 2 times, I believe, if I lost track. But he's also, I've embraced as my spiritual son. He's the fiddler on the rock. He's the guy that plays the violin. You see many of my posts online because we support his art. We'll be supporting him tomorrow night after he had a very huge expose on CBS Mornings the day after Thanksgiving. And that was huge. It was a 7-minute or so expose in his life story.
Wow.
And so, each one of us has a story that we've either gone through, overcome, or we are here to embrace today. And what the show has done for me and what it continues to do for me is to provide me access to men that I care deeply about. I didn't have a whole lot of guy relationships in my adulthood. I was too busy hustling to make money and to be married and raise the kids and all, the 3 sons that I had, birth of my ex-wife. But the reality is that through my own healing journey that started 9 years ago, back in 2015, and then launching this show, really has brought me so much joy. And I want to switch gears here now. Hopefully, I'm not going to get called out again, but you can. It's okay. I'll take it all. Here's the next segment of tonight's show. Do you have a favorite memory or moment we shared while on air on Real Men Real Talk Live, or even off air from the time when you were on Real Men Real Talk? Or was there a moment while we were live or pre-live or post show where it was one of your favorite memories of either a special guest we had in here or something that one of us was going through? Anything pop for you guys?
I said it before about the double dipping. I'm trying to remember the woman who was on that night, and when she's talking about her husband's cheating on her, like all the relationships she had, and I blurted out, "Cheating is chicken shit." Do you guys remember that?
I do remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I just blurted that out, and then you two guys like started talking, and I went, "Oh." But aside from that, what I remember, I remember that night, but what I really remember is how many times we'd be in our production meeting and we should have been recording that.
Yeah.
How many times before the show we started sharing and we should have been recording that.
Yeah.
Because of the production meetings, we'd talk about what we wanted to do with the show, but then we would just start talking and then healing, and it would just turn into a show, and it was just just us learning even more, and we all said, wow, we should have recorded this.
Yeah.
I remember all of that. So what I'm saying is that this was so much more than just this hour. It was production meetings that would go 2 hours, and us connecting on such an incredible level and talking about like what's going on in our lives right now. We would share, we would heal each other. It was amazing. And we spent a lot of time together growing and healing and learning. Not just in this 1 hour, but in the production meetings before the show.
Too.
Yeah, and it was great. Like the production meetings were amazing. That's one of the things.
Who else? Anyone else have memories from the show? What would be your favorite memory or moment we shared? Who's got one?
I think, to piggyback on you, Chris, it's the feeling that this space has is what I remember most, the safety, this camaraderie that I know that, your brothers in this room have my back. And like you said too, Jeff, that no matter what topic we're on, we are all of the same heart and values and have lived lives where we have faced adversity and moved through it in a heart-centered way, and so we could finish each other's sentences, and we all do think a lot alike. And then too, Charles, what you were talking about is that I think for me the biggest lesson was, how do you share vulnerably to the world in a very open way, but how to do that safely. And I think I abandoned myself for about the first year because I thought that sharing everything vulnerably was what we needed to do in this space. And I realized after a while that I didn't feel safe. The little soft parts in Josh didn't feel safe. And so I had to find my own boundary on how to be vulnerable in the world, but still protect those little soft parts of me, and also protect my friends and family and not overshare about things that, and I think we all danced a pretty good line, but there's no rules. I mean, nobody's really modeled to any of us, at least I haven't had in my life, how to share vulnerably about yourself and your struggles in the world to the world. and still stay safe in that. And this space right here that you've created, Jay, is definitely part of that safety. But I had to learn how to create that safety and not abandon little Josh inside too. So yeah,
And it's
Charles, you're
slippery.
right. It's hard, man.
Hey,
It's
Josh,
hard.
remember the night that you were talking about your father,
Yeah, I
and you
still.
were sharing about with your father and being really open, and then like the next week he watched the show.
He watched that night.
Oh, he watched it that night.
Wow.
Same thing.
Remember
happened.
that?
I had to have a heart-to-heart talk with him and
Yeah.
apologize for that one. That was not great.
Wow.
But this.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, it's how we learn in life, right?
One of the things, the most important part of this, and it is now, is we all, I would imagine all of us, didn't have the greatest models in the world,
Yeah.
the male models. We had to move through the challenges of it to learn that men, as men, we can share, we can be vulnerable, we can feel vulnerable, because we're never vulnerable. We're just feeling vulnerable. But the key to it is the authenticity and transparency that is so important in this world today, that I felt that we modeled for everyone when we were doing the show. Thus, each of us were modeling to each other that it was safe to do it. I mean, there were times that I didn't want to share things, and then I just began, because what we did, and you guys are still doing, is creating a safe space, a safe place to land, to be who we are, and know that we can be who we are. We can share what's in our heart. We can express who we are, what we're feeling, what we're thinking, lovingly. But it's safe to do that. And I learned through doing this show that I could be myself more and more and more without judgment and shame of who I am, and allow that mask to drop, and then the armor around my heart to crack.
Beautiful.
And then
Hey,
be in that place.
Pisano,
Yes.
welcome back home, brother. Welcome home. And what you guys, what Josh and Jeff just shared, it's a slippery, tricky slope, because I've been called out by my own family members at times, and I am not going to compromise. I am not going to compromise the foundation of the show. I'm going to speak my truth, and even when it may hurt a family member, it's slippery. It's not an easy chair to sit in. And just like you, Josh, I had to really learn how to kind of share it, but not throw family members under the bus.
Yeah, and I gotta go. Sorry, Jay.
Go
I
ahead.
gotta thank you guys. I gotta thank you guys because I remember that show, Josh. Like I watched that show, and it gave me the skill, right? Because I've got some stuff going on that if I wanted to just lean into it, like it'd be a hell of a show. But it's it's both of you guys, and the way that you've now kind of learned to navigate that space gave me the language and the ability to lean in where I need to, right? And be like, hey, this is what I've got going on, without being like this one thing about this person, and be a little bit more broad, has been so. Yeah, it's just it's been nice to get us to come in, backfill in, and not have to, I've got to learn from you guys, right? And as a guy that didn't have a father, as a guy that, his adoptive dad died, had to step into being a man at 12, I got to learn a lot of lessons from you guys. So it's really cool to be that second generation in the show.
I want to share something here. Katrina May, welcome from Canada. Western Canada, welcome back to the program. She says, I remember when I discovered your show, back in 2020. I think it was at the beginning of the COVID chapter. And you guys had come along at the right time, and it was a blessing to meet you all. And she goes on to say, and I do remember that episode when Josh regretted sharing too much. And I thought to myself, no, you shared just the right amount. And so that's what Katrina May had to say. As we continue, well, Tracy Watson also says, yes, I remember that show as well. It was very moving to feel your vulnerability, Josh Richard. As Charles had to step out for a moment to charge his battery, so there's going to be a blank screen. Yeah, that's okay. But any other memories from the show? Favorite moments or memories from even for you, Kamalu, Chris, anyone else that came forward for you? And then we're going to have Charles share his memory if he's got one.
I just remember how much of a big step it felt to do my first show of Real Men Talk Live. And that feeling afterwards, like, wow, okay, I did the thing. And it went really well. And we responded beautifully. And yeah, just the feeling of like being seen and heard and acknowledged and appreciated. Like, especially with old come in as a 23-year-old and have three men in their these 50s, 60s sit down with me and be like, you know, really hear what I had to say and honor what I had to share. That was really touching for me.
Kamala, if you could up your volume at all on your audio, it's a little low. We heard you, but one of our viewers, I think you may know her, Mary Kelly, said, "Speak louder, Kamala." And she said that with nothing but love in her heart.
Speak louder.
I think the thing for me that I remember the most, Jay, is in one of the pre-production shows or pre-productions, you're like, "Man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And like you were just like, "Yeah, okay." And like we moved through the pre-production show, and at the end, and you asked again, you're like, "Are you sure you're okay?" I was like, "No, man, I'm a mess right now." Like, man, I'm just like, and just like I didn't want to like derail the whole thing right there at the start, but it was just like, but he just like keyed into it. Like it wasn't like, you know, he knew, right? He just knew, and he wasn't gonna let it go, and he's gonna make sure that I was okay before we got off the call together. So that, like, nothing on the show at all, just that level of connection with another man is the thing that I remember the most.
And that's how we get to show up in our life today. That's a choice. We get to show up that way when we can see or feel the energy that someone's putting out there, and we know them, and we know that that's not their normal energy per se. Then we have a choice to acknowledge them. And at the end of the day, isn't life all about connecting with people, the emotional connection? And but part of that also is being drawn in, meaning that we get to be seen as well. We're going to be seen whether we're coming from love or we're coming from hate. We're going to be seen, and that's a choice. But Charles, I want to drop into you. What was your favorite? Do you have anything that comes to mind? Favorite memory or moment in the show?
Some of the topics, you know, that's I think a lot of the topics, and you allowed us to really kind of work together to come up with some things. I know I came up with a couple of crazy ones here and there that we used to really just change a little bit of direction and kind of, you know, keep it a little bit more open and fun and free. And I think that we covered a lot of really great topics that I think a lot of people could really appreciate when we were doing them. So I think that, and once again, I think just being able to, you know, there are a lot of people out here dealing with a lot of mental health issues, emotional issues. We talked about personal things, you know, me and you, Jay, talked about, you know, our children that are, you know, have you know, maybe caused some pain in our hearts. I learned a lot from you guys about relationships, to be honest, because, you know, just Jay, seeing where you're at as far as, you know, your amazing situation and Jeff, you know, what you were going through at that time and your ride, and of course Josh, you know, really kind of seeing and learning and growing from a mature place, where I looked at you guys and said, man, you know, there's a lot that I could learn as a man, especially when it comes to relationships, from where you guys, you know, were and are. So it was a beautiful learning lesson from all of you, to be honest with you.
Thanks.
You know, one of the biggest things that going all the way back to the beginning of the show and your question, Jay, that of where I am now is I have worked through. I was talking to somebody the other day. How I used to not do things, not approach people, not approach women based upon my wounding, and how I realized I put things off because I didn't want to feel certain things. I put things off because of judgment and shame of self. And I've realized in the last like whole bunch of months that I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, "Could you believe it's the end of the year already?" And I said, one of the things, the biggest changes in my life is I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to miss out on anything. It's like, it's almost like, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I want. I'm going to express that. And I don't want to, and my wounding, my shame, my judgment is not going to stand in the way anymore of me having the life I want and what I want in it, because of the fact that, hey, we're only here for this amount of time, and that wounding and that stuff. And I've moved past so much of it. I've grown so much in the last 2 years, to the point where, hey, I'm going to state my truth, have what I want. The biggest thing that I have learned in the last 3 months is learning how to be okay with doing nothing.
Jeff, we need to talk. I'm in that one right now.
Well, Josh, haven't you been there before?
Not
during
this
off-season?
place.
No.
Well, yeah, you've seen the roller coaster for sure.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
there's some new awarenesses that are popping up now that are like,
yep. The more
I am nothing without my creations.
Yeah.
Without creating.
And people, somebody asked me, I ran into a very, photographer friend last night. She goes, "So what are you doing? What's new?" And I said, "I'm doing nothing. I don't know what's next. I don't even know what I want to do next, but I'm actually doing nothing right now." And I'm learning how to be in that place of just being, and then choosing what I want to do without the need to do something to avoid the feelings if I'm doing nothing. Does that make sense?
I want to jump in for a second too. I'm literally at that same place. I don't know if it's just, I was telling somebody today, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm for this world anymore. And what I mean by that is what I see is one way. This new generation of world that we live in seems to see it totally different. And, when I see certain things and I'm like, no, they can't like that. And you see the internet exploding over it, and I'm just like, I don't know how I fit in this anymore. And so it's more of me working to my way out. I got a beautiful home I just built in Costa Rica. And, I'm like, you know what, man, I can't wait to finish off a couple of projects and be able to get there and do nothing, work around the yard and the land and plant some stuff and just wake up in the morning and do nothing. And I go there often, and literally, I find myself going to bed at because it's a beautiful small town, about 30 minutes from the airport, and I find myself going to bed about 8:30 and waking up at 5:30 in the morning, ready to go, just to head up to the top of the land and clean up a little bit and do some stuff. But um, I'm looking at life very differently now, and I think that somewhere along the way, um, we have gotten caught into believing that we need to, work like dogs, stay busy. I know Alan Watts said at times that we are uncomfortable with ourselves, that we
Yep.
how to
Yep.
just do nothing, that we have to, go to the movies, we have to, uh, you know, do this or do that. We can't just be comfortable
Be-
ourselves. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. With
You
what time
nailed it, Charles, and it's such a bummer we're getting to this at minute
Yeah, yeah,
56
yeah.
because I feel like
Hey,
we
well,
could all
we've gone over. Come
Yeah.
on, we used to
But Charles, yeah, man, that's huge. They just being with yourself. And it's funny, I always thought I was comfortable with myself, but I'm like you, I'm a voracious doer.
yeah.
And it finally landed in my lap this last month that I don't need to do to be seen or loved or that I could just be me.
mhm.
And I'm exploring that. And that stillness that you're both talking about it's hard at
It's
first.
excruciating.
Right?
Dude, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
one of the I'm telling you, learning. There's a great book out. I have it here. It's a little book about the art of doing nothing.
Mm.
But when we're doing nothing, we're actually, I feel, planting seeds within in ourselves for the next thing that's going to come along. That when we're doing it, at least it's going to be something that we're doing purposefully. It's not about the incessant doing to avoid,
That discomfort.
I mean, what pops into my head if I start doing nothing is my father telling me, get to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then that wounded little boy inside starts to feel guilty that I should be doing something. And then the adult me goes, but what? And it's really about learning how to just be who we are. And then as we are cultivating that inside of ourselves of being who we are, then we can start to say, oh, I'm going to go out into the world being that. And then the doing will take care of itself because we've let go of whatever energy we're putting in our way that says we have to do something.
Beautiful. With what time we have left, we're going to go over a little bit here, gentlemen.
Mind
If
if
you-
I just touch on that, Jay? Because that's like my whole world right now.
Okay.
Loved it. Can't wait to hear it, Chris.
So most of us, right, we've got stuck into do, have, be. Do the work so you can have cool stuff so you can be happy. Right? And for me, it's be, do, have. My state of being, who I choose to be in any and every moment, gives me the space to create so that I can do what I want to do and have the life I want to. So it's not do, have, be, it's be, do, have. And so and we can choose that state of being anytime we want to.
Well, hold on a minute, Chris. Are you ready? Are you ready to step into what Carrie suggests here? She said the art of doing nothing is roller skating around my house in a tutu. Freedom to
Done.
embrace my weirdness.
But
Are
you're doing
you
something
suggesting
though,
that next show we should all wear tutus, and we should just be. What do you make of that, Chris?
The art of doing nothing is roller skating around my house in a tutu. Freedom to embrace what she's doing. She's skating. She's like,
Right. She's
no, I
doing
mean, but what I'm saying is like, I'm not saying do nothing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it. All doing comes from who we're being.
Mm.
Everything that we do, I can have an interaction with anybody, right? And if I stop and think about it and observe who I'm being, let's just pick my boys. Am I being understanding? Am I being loving? Am I being kind? Or am I being irritated, irrational, and demanding? And I can choose that being at any moment. And like my single word that I come from is joy.
Is what?
Joy.
Okay. Beautiful.
I create from the frequency that is joy.
Beautiful.
And if it's not joy, I don't
What's
want
that,
it.
Charles?
Yeah, and then jump in where he was saying, and not to drop any names, but I was talking to Deepak Chopra's brother like 3 days ago, and he said something that really kind of touched me too as well. I think it's where I'm at. It's really about being happy. The material things come and go. We have been seeing our loved ones every time we turn on Facebook. It's somebody else that we know is passing away. Somebody's sick with something. Somebody's dealing with cancer. Somebody's dealing with some sort of mental health issue. And a matter of fact, I was talking to Rob yesterday, and you just wake up sometimes. You have one of those days, nothing particular, and you're just like, man, this just can't be it. This ain't it. You know what I'm saying? It's this, between, what I'm dealing with now, between all the shows that we're doing and taking care of my sick mother and a lot of her responsibilities, my own things, kids, other family members, dramas. It's like, when are we really happy? When are we really finding, a day here, a day there, a couple hours there? So my thing is really about being happy and at peace. And I only need one car. I only need one decent place to live. There's a few other things I like, but it's really just about being happy because,
Okay.
What's happiness for you, Charles? I'm curious.
Just peace, just peace.
There you go. And there's where I was going to take it. That was a brilliant question you just asked, Josh, because one of the things that I've learned, especially over the past 9+ years, is it's inner peace, number one. And the second thing that hits you pretty hard if or when you flirt with death
Mm.
is one word, 3 syllables, gratitude.
Mm.
Gratitude is it's a word that's overused and it's not understood until you it's a relationship that comes through our inner being that brings us to gratitude. And it's interesting. For some of you may know, I faced death again about 5 months ago. I had a heart attack while I was officiating a wedding in Denver, and I stayed through it. I didn't quit. And
I can't believe that, man.
and then I flew home, still having a heart attack. And 4 days, after it started on July 4th, I went to the hospital that next Monday. 4 days later, and they said, "No, your lungs are fine. You're in the throes of a significant heart attack." And what happened for me was day 2 after they did a procedure to clean me out a little bit. As I laid in ICU, I said these words to Mary. I said, Mary, at no point, at no time was I in fear of dying.
Hmm.
And through that process, it brought me back to that space of incredible gratitude that my time isn't up. There's more lives that I'm here to touch through the work that I do and how I show up in my own life. And the relationship between gratitude and inner peace is very profound because it really is about being at peace with who who you are becoming or who you are. And it doesn't matter what other people think. What matters most is what you feel about yourself as a man and as a woman, if you're paying attention and watching tonight. I do want to shift gears here right now. We're going over a little bit, but I saved the best question for the last. If you don't feel you have anything to contribute, that's okay, but because I know you will anyway. So here's the last question for each one of you gentlemen. Has the show impacted or changed how you show up in intimate relationships today with friends, relatives, or a significant other in your life today? How has being on Real Men Real Talk Live impacted or not impacted your most intimate relationships in life? Who wants to jump in first?
For me, I think being on the show is a larger theme of how I am, how I'm being in the world, my state in the world. This is a reflection of how I've made this shift. Like the guy that you met in 2021 was not somebody that would be on the show. He could look at the show and be like, that'd be cool too. I wish I could. But this is like, being here is just a reflection of that shift. And so it's a beautiful spot, but yeah, it's all part of the whole right now.
Anybody else want to share how the show influenced or impacted your relationships outside of the show, especially around intimacy?
Yeah, I think for me it was, I used to, Charles, also lead a pretty private life and hold everybody at arm's length, and that was how I kept safety in my world. Not saying that that's what you were doing, but this was my personal view on it. Was, if I keep everybody at arm's length, and I keep this veneer of a nice happy life, nobody will ask any questions. But I think what happened in Real Men was these men cared enough to ask questions when I was down, or cared enough to pry a little. And that's not poking into somebody's business. That's because you care about them. And through their questions and the safety, this space of safety, I was able to open up and see what that meant to open up with other men, other people, and that I was loved, honored, and accepted for me, and that's a beautiful thing to learn. And I'm sorry it took me this long to get it, but I'm also sure glad I found it before. So it's improved all of my relationships, of course.
Wow. Josh, Richard, welcome home, man, to your authentic self. There's no place that's better than that, when we just feel safe just to express who we are and what we need. We get to live a whole new way of living and loving life.
For me, 8 years ago when I moved to Nashville, met a guy here. We formed a men's group here that I now run the men's group. It's now my group here. We meet every Monday night. It's a really cool thing. But when he was sharing one night, he said, I really want to shift my relationships with women. And he said, the only way, somebody told him, or his therapist at the time said, the only way you're going to shift your relationship with women and the feminine energy is if you change the relationships you have with men.
Facts.
And I heard that, and in my life, I grew up. I had a lot of buddies. I mean, I played football, baseball. I had a lot of buddies in New York. When I moved to LA, something shifted, And all of a sudden I garnered and gathered a whole bunch of women friends. And I became, and I did talk about this on the show at one point. I became the guy in the friend zone. I think we probably even did a show about it.
Yeah, we did.
And I realized that what I really wanted is if I met a woman but there was something going on. So when I moved to Nashville and met Randy and we started this men's group, he ran it. I started to shift and change my relationship with men. The thing is, started to be able to share what inside of me, what was going on with men. And then Jay, I meet Jay and I did his show, and then we got together and Jay put us all on the show together. Jay called us and said, "Hey, would you like to do the show with other guys?" And I was like, "Yeah." And right then and there, after the show, we knew that we have to make this a show. But it was through also being on the show with guys that I started the relationship with men started to shift in me, where I knew I can share with men what I'm feeling. And through all of that, in the time that we were doing that, it changed my relationship that I have with women. I no longer am in the friend zone. I no longer will never be in the friend zone. It won't happen because of this show, these guys, and my men's group here.
Beautiful.
So that's a wonderful thing that the show gave me, and that hope that we're showing others, that when you shift your relationship with men and open your heart space and share your deepest shit inside of you with love, and you have men holding that space, you will definitely shift your relationship with women and the feminine energy, where you'll be able to stand in a power of yourself because you're relearning how to honor that masculine energy inside of us.
Yep. Love it.
And that was a big change and shift.
Yeah, I'm glad you're out of the friend zone, but it is also nice to invite in a few female friends as well.
I've got plenty of them. I don't want any more.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, beautiful. Anything else come up for any of you other gentlemen? That was amazing, Jeff. I remember that show specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I remember Evis on that show. I don't know what it was, where he was coming from on that show, but I learned so much from him on that show. Actually, Evis on that show said, "Dude, here's the mirror, look into it." And I remember that so vividly, because that was one of the wonderful things about the show is we would hold up this mirror to each other. Whoa, okay. And that's why the cohesiveness of that, we could hold up the mirror to each other and go, "Okay, thank you for showing me parts of me that I've ignored, that I've shamed and judged, and now I know I can love those parts of me because you guys are mirroring back to me that it's okay."
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Before we move on to anyone else that wants to share how the show influenced or impact their relationships on an intimate level with others, Tracy Watson says, "This show impacted my intimate relationships in knowing that men can be aware and present and loving. I know I deserve to feel safe, heard, and loved. And now I don't settle for any less." Beautiful to hear that, Tracy Watson. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that tonight. That takes courage right there to share what you just shared. Anyone else want to jump in and either share how the show has impacted you in intimacy, or we could go, if there's no other that you'd like to share, we could go right into closing thoughts on episode 200 and just closing thoughts.
Yeah. I definitely want to say that as far as what we learned, it was good to be around solid men, you know, because I think a lot of times what we see in this world today are, men who just don't have the right morals, who are running around here cheating and doing all kind of things, and we've probably all been there. But to be just unscrupulous in many ways. So to be around solid men who are trying to figure it out and still trying to figure out whether they're, younger or older, I think was very powerful. To be around people who are hard workers, who are dedicated, who are, experts in their craft. I mean, Jeff is a renowned photographer who I would love to do some work with one of these days. Obviously, Josh is producing big television shows. Jay has left the corporate world and is settled in a loving relationship. Evis is a very passionate person about fitness and life, and just drops down some serious things that sometimes day to day. So it was amazing being around really solid people that I could look at and say, you know what, it's this show means something, and I'm proud of the company that I'm keeping.
Yeah.
Can I dovetail on what Charles just said? But I think this is really important. I'm probably going to get verklempt by doing this.
Only a New Yorker can say that and get away with it. Verklempt.
Verklempt. Yeah. When Charles brings up morals, and one of the things I really, and that Ev would always talk about was, what are our values? And I remember when Ev at the beginning would say values, and I was like, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? And then finally it hit me. I don't even know what show it was, but it hit me. And I remember after the show or the next day, I took out a piece of paper and I wrote down my values. I still have that piece of paper when I do my morning meditations. I pull that out to say, what are my values? Do I value authenticity? Is one of my values transparency? Is one of my values loving, honoring, and valuing myself? That changed my life. So when we have these values that are important to us, that have nothing to do with anything outside of ourselves, I think that's what Charles was just talking about. These values of what is really important, and we have to live by those values. One of the big lessons, Ev used to talk about it all the time, and when I finally got it, it's our values. Like, take out a piece of paper after the show, folks, and write down your values. What's important to you that you embody within yourself, that's important to you in relationships, and
Beautiful.
how those values can shift and change your life, and that will form wonderful, loving relationships outside of you.
There you go. Very good. Thank you, Jeff Fasano. With what time we have left in this moment here, I want to give Kamalu and then Chris an opportunity to share right here, right now. What has it been like to be in the presence of Josh, Jeff, and Charles? Because you guys were viewers. You didn't, before you became co-host, you weren't on the other side of the camera. And so what has it meant for you, Kamala?
I had never heard of the show until you invited me to be on it.
There you go.
That's fair. But I presume you may have watched a show or two where you saw the original co-host. But more importantly, what has it been like for you to be here tonight, being such an active listener?
Yeah,
What'd you pick up?
It's really cool to witness kind of the dynamic of the group, because we've had Charles on before with, I think Avery was still on before Chris came on, but so like I kind of know the personal dynamic with Charles, but to see the dynamic and also like to hear how the show has shifted in many ways, in the ways in which, like, your guys' personal friendships and dynamics shape the show in a way that I think it's just different now. Not necessarily better or worse. It's just it's just a little bit of a different energy, and so it's cool to like see it and witness it and take part in it.
How about for you, Chris? How has it been sitting in a studio tonight? With has it been surreal on any level for you? Being
Oh,
with
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's like, yeah, it's definitely surreal because like I literally would just like come in on whatever day it was. I think it was on a different day then, and I'd put it on the TV and we'd kind of do our family thing, and I literally like had it on the TV as like a show, and I'd sit there and me and my wife at the time would come in and watch it, um and yeah, it's just really cool to like. I really did sit there and sometimes be like, oh, it'd be really cool to be on that, to do that. Like I literally was like, that would be cool to do that, and
and here you are.
and here I am yet
And,
again,
yeah, and
realizing that.
I
Go
always,
ahead.
you guys really still have something special, and I definitely encourage you guys to keep running with it and come together to take some next bigger steps too as well, because if each one of you put a little bit of effort into broadening the space, creating more reach, bringing on some small sponsors or whatever you want to do, I think that you could really continue taking this to the next level. I always talk about that with you, Jay.
Yep. Amen.
If you kind of sit down and say, hey, together as a group and say, hey, there's a lot of streaming platforms out here now. There's a lot of places that you guys can fit. That I'm sure between the 3-4 of you, there's some small sponsors that you can pull on board to make a couple of dollars. So keep taking this to the next level. Everybody, make sure you between you guys, keep sharing it, create some social media pushes, spend a couple of dollars on getting it out there. But, I still hope to, do something with you guys soon.
I'd love that. I'd love that, Charles. Either you or Josh, either one.
Yeah. This needs to have its own space, it really does. And I know we talked about that before, and we were looking at even some Josh came up with some great studio looks for the show. That's fantastic. And there's nothing like this. Nothing like this. And it needs to be.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
I'll echo that, Charles, too, and just say the world needs a space with open, vulnerable men who are willing to share. So Jay and Chris and Kamalu, carry the torch, man. Keep at it, and it needs to be out there. And it does sadden me that my time with real men had to close, and for me to move on to the next steps in my life. But I'm cheering the three of you on all the way. And,
I just want to be back tonight, Josh.
I was thinking that a second ago. I think Chris, while you were talking, was just like, man, I've never shared space with you guys like this.
Yeah.
And it feels just as safe as it did. So Real Men is home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing I could say too is, and I said it earlier about modeling. It's important that men who are doing this for men is to just model being who we are and who you guys are. We used to talk about on that show that what we're doing is becoming models for, if we can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, mentors, healthy model.
And as the show, I remember when I at the beginning of the show, after 2-3 years, I was a totally different person from just being on the show. I grew within me so much that I was a very, very different person. If you go back and watch the first season, I was quiet and then I just grew more into myself, which by what we talk about and what we share, we can be models for toxic masculinity. To model to them, it's like, you know, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel. It's okay to share your feelings. It's safe to share your feelings, and you're not weak. You're not stupid. It's you're to be honest with you, it's more courageous to feel and more powerful to feel and share those feelings and to land in toxic masculinity.
There you go. And with that, unless there's any burning desire to share anything more, what I'd like to do is, again, viewers, if you heard something you liked or loved tonight, please share it out in your family and friends, social community, as well as email. And I want to just thank each one of you men for being here tonight. It has been such an honor. It's been very surreal for me. The only thing missing, if there was to be anything missing, is not having Evis here with us tonight. But other than that, it's been such a joy for me. This is like, you know, you could go out to buy a present for somebody, and then you go to buy the gift wrapping paper, and of course, the last part is the bow on top. We're in a holiday season, so you can understand and relate to what I'm sharing right now. But having all of you in my presence in the studio tonight with me there's no better bow on the show than what I have right here, right now. It's been such a joy, such an honor, and I am so grateful that each one of you men are in my life. You've impacted my life in so many different ways.
Ditto, Jay. Ditto, my friend.
Facts.
It takes such, I want to say, commitment to do 200 episodes, and technically there's over 200 because like the last show we did part two, so we kept 199 one and part two. That was a brilliant wisdom that came through from Kaimalu, and that's another thing about Real Men Real Talk Live. We have no problem sharing and giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Because we leave ego
Yeah.
in the backyard or in a car. There's no ego in the show.
Yeah.
I never felt that ego came through. What does come through is respect and love for one another as men, and providing a safe space for us to feel safe. And heck, who knows? Maybe you guys will be around at episode 300 or 250, and we'll have another reunion show.
Of course.
But on that note, I want to thank each of our viewers for joining us this evening. Those of you that communicated, that shared comments, we appreciate you. We appreciate your continued support of the show. And on that note, gentlemen, I think it's time to call it a wrap. From my heart to yours,
Thank you,
thank you
brother.
for joining me tonight on Real
Love
Men.
I love
Oh,
you.
by
guys.
the way, stay in the studio for a post moment, just for a moment here. But viewers and men, thank you so much for joining me this evening on Real Men, Real Talk Live.